Hey folks, I'm Sam Luce here at NA Studios. Thanks so much for checking the video out. Today I want to show you how we can get some real life, some real aggression, some real something to a rock mix. We're going to do this using parallel compression. Now I want to use 3 different plugins here for 3 different jobs. I'm going to have one on the drums, one on the guitar bus, and one on a bass bus. Now these are all in parallel, so I've created some new buses for these. So for those of you who are maybe unfamiliar with parallel processing, this is a technique whereby we send some of our signal to another bus. Then we can bring up that bus in parallel, as it were, next to the original track. So I can send some of my drums from my drum bus to another channel. And then as I increase the send amount, the amount going to that bus is going to increase. So I've got another copy of my drums. Then I can bring up that fader, and whatever I've done to that parallel bus, I can bring up underneath the original drum track, and it's going to add a different flavor. In this case, I'm adding some compression, some grit, using 3 plugins. Here's the plugins I'm going to use. On the drums, I've got the Kit Plugins Core Compressor, so this is going to add some real roominess, some smashiness, and some real life to this drum track. Then on the guitars, I've got Smash, which is kind of a few compressors in series, which is designed to get some real analog goodness to the track you're applying it to. And then on bass, I've got Barrier. So this is typically actually a saturator and designed to kind of help something sit back in the mix. But on a parallel bus, when you slam it up to 11, this has got some real grit on the bass guitar, which is allowing us to get some real pick attack and allowing it to really punch through a mix. That's what I'm using. Let's take a look at how I'm using them. Right, so first and foremost, let's take a listen to this mix without any of those plugins engaged. It's just a rock mix. It's ready for some vocal ideas to go on top. And I just wanted to see if I could get the most out of this mix. Here it is without the plugins, and then I'll play it to you with the plugins. The difference there to me is mind-blowing. I want to show you exactly what I've done. So first off, I'm going to mute these channels, the bass parallel down here at the bottom, the guitar parallel, and we're just going to focus in on the drum parallel and see exactly what I've done. So this is the core compressor, and this is really designed to give you a couple of different sounds. The first is Crush, which is up on the top button here, which when you have it engaged, it gives you kind of some settings that are just stock preset there and are just going to be designed to give you this massive roomy sound. I want to play you just this bus on its own and hear exactly what it's adding. If I take it out, bring it back in. So to me, that's adding 2 things. That's adding loads and loads of bottom end, and it's adding loads and loads of sustain. There's got some reverb on the drums, and it's just bringing up that whole sound. So this is perfect. This kind of technique is perfect for when you've got a drum track that sounds a little bit lifeless, a little bit dead. Just bringing in this parallel bus underneath it is going to help add so much aggression and so much room to your drum sound. What I'm going to do is just solo the drums, and then I'm going to bring up this parallel bus, and at the moment it's at like -6 dB. I'm just going to bring that up, and you'll hear that life start to come into the drums, and that's what we're aiming for, a bit of life to a sterile drum mix. So here it is, starting off with it off, and then I'll bring it up gradually. Starting to hear it there. There it is, look. Without it. It adds so much life, so much body, and a lot of this is down to this body control here. If I bring this all the way down and play the parallel track and then bring it up, you're going to hear this compression just kind of double in goodness, double in awesomeness. It's going to bring up all those great qualities that I just said, the low end and the sustain. It's going to take them from sounding pretty good to sounding awesome. Without it, it just sounds like you're in a room with the drummer, and for rock stuff, this kind of parallel processing is absolutely perfect. So on the guitar bus, I've gone for something slightly different. This is smash, and I'm using it in a way that is kind of more of a tone shaping kind of thing. It's adding that parallel compression, but it's also adding some real grit to the sound. Now, in this compressor, you have a lo-fi button as well. So I'm not actually engaging that here, but you can tell by just the addition of that lo-fi button that this compressor is aimed at getting dirty sounds, gritty sounds. And you can see down at the bottom this nice little graphic. When you bring it down, it shows you that it's just going to be standard, and then as you bring it down, it's really getting smashy, getting really aggressive. So that's kind of a good way of showing how aggressive you're being on this. I want to play the guitars without it and then with it, and then we'll talk about exactly what it's doing. Here it is without the parallel bus first, and then we'll bring it in. Here it comes. So that takes the original guitar track, which sounded pretty decent on its own. It sounded pretty aggressive and pretty heavy. When you bring that in, it just adds this kind of sound of a blown out guitar amp. Like, it just adds a load of gain to it, and it adds a load of dirtiness, a load of nastiness. And when you bring that in the mix, as you kind of bring it up a touch, you just get all this aggression in the guitars. So slightly different than I did with the drums, I'm actually going to bring this one up in the context of the mix so you can hear exactly what it's adding. You'll hear as I bring this up, we're just getting some of that kind of top end, that crispy top end, that aggression, that life, and it's just making the guitars explode out of the speakers. So let's just unsolo the guitars. I'll take the parallel bus all the way down. It's at -3 at the moment. We'll bring it up gradually and we'll hear those guitars just start to come to life. To me, that kind of gets wider as well. The guitars get a little bit wider in the speakers. Take a listen as I mute and unmute that parallel bus. Whatever it's doing, I love it. Now, this is emulating like a series of compressors here, so it's getting dirtier and dirtier and dirtier as you go along. As you bring this knob up, it's getting super dirty, super aggressive. For a rock track, for rock guitars, there's nothing better. It sounds so good. Now, this bass is an interesting one because this video is not just about parallel compression per se, so using a compressor in parallel. It's actually about just adding so much life through parallel compression and through parallel processing. So for this one, I've chosen to use a parallel saturator. So this is Barrier, and this is kind of designed to make things sit back a little bit in the mix. But if you abuse it, if you go over the top, you can add so much dirt and aggression to a bass. Take a listen to the bass without this, and then I'm going to bring it in and you're going to see what I'm talking about. Now, on its own, doesn't sound great. It sounds kind of a bit wet and a bit kind of flabby, but that's the whole point about parallel processing. You're not listening to it on its own. It's meant to be extreme because you bring it up underneath everything else. So just take a listen to this without the parallel processing in first of all, and then I'm just going to bring this bus up. So at the moment it's at -6.8. I'm going to bring it all the way down. As I bring that up, you're going to start to hear a load more definition on the bass. You're going to start to hear a load more pick attack, and you're going to start to hear that kind of blend in with the guitars a touch. This is adding some top end and some dirtiness to the bass, which is helping it kind of merge with the guitars slightly. Just take a listen as I bring this up. I think that's so useful to be able to just add that level of aggression to it. But interestingly, we've got the low cut and the high cut on here. So if I just solo the bass parallel bus, I've got this low cut up at 540 Hertz. If I bring this down and don't really have the low cut on at all, you'll hear that it's affecting that low end a bit too much, but we can tailor that effect using these two filters. So as I bring that up, It's just cutting out all that bottom end, because I've already got that bottom end in the actual bass guitar track. This is just for the aggression. This is just for the slam, for the buzz, for the dirtiness. So I've got the actual berry control all the way up to 11, and then I don't want it to affect that low end too much because I kind of like the low end where it is. So because it's on parallel, I can just have this as a dirt fader, bring it up next to it, and it's going to add so much to that bass guitar. So let's take a listen to this full mix again without any of that processing, and then let's bring it on and see exactly what we've done. To my ears, that has absolutely transformed that mix. It has given it so much life, so much grit, so much aggression, and for a rock mix that was sounding a little sterile, these 3 plugins have just taken it completely up a few notches. Thanks so much for checking it out. I hope that's been useful. Try it in your productions and see how you get on. I'll see you again soon. Take care.